Welcome back to Eagle Bank Arena here in Fairfax, Virginia. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We are a little bit into the first quarter here, just 8.5 minutes in, as Amina Lee makes a 5-footer on the right side of the rim. And we're sending you right into action here. There's green and yellow George Mason all around us. And Fordham just tied the game up 2-2 with 8 minutes to go here as Smith takes a shot right around the free throw line for George Mason. No good. Rebound by Taylor Donaldson. Fordham now coming the other way. Donaldson kicking to the left wing to McGurk. McGurk to Amina Lee at the free throw line. She'll pump fake, decide to pass back out to McGurk. She'll stand at the top of the George Mason logo. Dribble handoff on the right wing to Hayford. Hayford back top of the key to Taylor Donaldson. Donaldson giving it to Lee. Down inside to Rose Nelson. No good on the pass. And now Mitchell's going the other way for George Mason. Mitchell, contested layup with Amina Lee. Amina Lee swats it out of bounds. It'll stay with George Mason.
Well, now we have some time to talk after some technical difficulties. Happy to be on the air with you, Chris. Tied 2-2 so far. Kind of a rocky start for both teams here. But all things considered, Fordham against a tough George Mason team. Off to an okay start defensively.
As that one goes out of bounds from the Fordham defensive pressure on the baseline, it'll go back with the Rams. Rose Nelson taking it out on the opposite side. Fordham in their extremely clean black away going left to right. George Mason in their home whites going right to left. Amy Hayford on the left wing. Going around a Harris screen, now to the middle of the lane. Back out to Donaldson. In the right corner to Rose Nelson. Rose Nelson going through the middle of the lane. Takes the contested layup. No good off backboard. And now Suarez for George Mason going the other way. Suarez on the left wing, driving inside. Kick out to Dayster. Back to Mitchell on the right wing. Dribble handoff to Habib. Habib tries to drive inside on Donaldson. Doesn't. Kicks it back out to Smith. Smith now recalibrates top of the key. Dribbling around a few Fordham defenders. Taking it right around the right block. Puts up a floater. No good. And now Fordham has it. Going the other way. Hayford taking her opportunity. Driving through the right lane. Blocked by Mitchell in the lane. Now George Mason coming back the other way. Mitchell on the right wing to Suarez. Suarez around a Daster screen. Going through the left lane. Now around the paint. Back out to Habib. Habib takes the 10-footer right around the left elbow, and it's good. George Mason up 4-2 here with 6.5 to go in the first quarter.
Habib taking advantage of the entire size difference there on Mandy McGurk. Shooting over her, Mandy McGurk didn't even get a hand in her face. Wide open jump shot nailed.
Kayla Harris has it around the free throw line. Out to Mandy McGurk on the right wing. She'll take the shot from inside the arc. No good on the 12-footer, and George Mason will have it going the other way.
And then conversely, Mandy McGurk on the other end of that size difference gets the shot up, but not really anywhere close to the rim because of the height of the defender guarding her.
Yeah, height definitely a factor in this one here tonight. George Mason playing with a lot of size. So Mitchell now has it on the left wing. Back top of the key to Suarez for George Mason's offense. 4-2, like I said before, George Mason. On the right corner, tried to get it to Smith, stolen by Taylor Donaldson. Taylor Donaldson now going in transition. Makes a contested layup on the left block on Suarez, and Taylor Donaldson ties this game up for Fordham, 4-4. Mitchell gets it to Suarez, top of the key. Suarez barking orders to her squad. On the left elbow is Dayster. Back on the left wing to Smith. Smith guarded heavily by Kayla Berry. Now has to pass it to the other right wing to Suarez. Suarez crossover on Hayford. Pass down and low. Good on the very, very, very contested layup for Dayster. That's her second field goal of the night. 6-4 George Mason. Now Taya Davis bringing it up for the Rams. Hayford has it on the right wing behind the arc around a screen. Now Taylor Donaldson on the opposite side. Gets it, going baseline. Pass to the opposite corner to Hayford. Hayford now drives through the middle of the lane. Takes an extra step. Tries to get the floater in the lane. No good. Bit of a scrum under the basket. It will go out of bounds in the favor of the Patriots.
It's so fun watching Amy Hayford when she's in that zone right there. Takes the extra step. She has this thing where she likes to plant her feet while she has another step to give. And lets the defender fake. Gets it up. Doesn't get it there, but still a nifty move from Amy Hayford.
Yeah, a timeout was called on the floor, and we could stick with Amy Hayford for a little bit. Taylor Donaldson seemingly the star of this team, the player on the marquee, if you will, for this Fordham team. But Amy Hayford has definitely proved herself and shown her own.
Absolutely. You look at the last game. I mean, 18 points, leading the team in scoring just a game ago. And what's been probably one of their biggest momentum-building game they've had this season. A 5-game losing streak snapped against George Washington just a game ago. So really good stuff there from Amy Hayford. And then Taylor Donaldson, in her own right, still got up to 16 points. We're just not used to her not being the leading scorer of the team. But if she's able to produce 16 points while Amy Hayford leads the team, this team is in good shape.
And as we talked about in the intro, this George Mason team absolutely on fire all year long. They're at 16-3 on the year, including 7-1 in the conference and 8 games unbeaten here in this arena at home. They've been fantastic. Who is kind of the game changer, the player that really leads them into battle for this Patriot team?
It's an interesting question because they're covered on so many different bases. They have Sonia Smith, who's the scorer, has posted double-figure scoring in 14 of the 16 games this season. That's an unreal stat. But they also have the youth. They have players that are coming in right now and making an immediate impact. And when you already have a player like Sonia Smith, when you have a Taylor Jamison, when you bring in freshmen that can already complement that on day one, you have teams that outperform. When freshmen come in and perform better than you expect, you have teams like George Mason who were expected to finish in the upper half, but certainly not leading the A-10 as they are in several statistical categories so far this season.
Fordham kind of meddling in this early stages of the game, 6-4 right now, just under 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. Any real positives you're seeing from this Fordham team they should build on for the rest of this game?
It's a bit of a rocky start. It's hard to say so far. They only have 4 points on the board. They've given up 6 to George Mason. It's been kind of a nondescript start to this game. I hate to say it like that, but you've seen a couple of good shots from Amy Hayford, Taylor Donaldson, the contested layup that has half of their points on the board right now. It's been an okay start, I think is the best way to put it. There's certainly a lot of room to grow, but a good timeout called there to give them time to reset and come back out because it was a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, both teams coming out of their huddles now. As I said before, Fordham in their extremely clean, the debut of these black alternate uniforms, maybe not the debut.
They wore it once against Duquesne, but has definitely taken a back seat to the red and the white uniforms we've seen, but I don't know why. They're incredible.
With white numbers and black jerseys, it looks like an absolutely fantastic combination. George Mason in their home whites. Home whites they have not lost in all year long. They're going to hope to try and continue that all game long here today as they'll come out of the timeout now. George Mason in the white going right to left. As I said, Fordham in the black going left to right. George Mason will have it in their backcourt and try to break a Fordham press here defensively. They don't. Taylor Donaldson steals it at the midcourt for Fordham, and she's going the other way. Tried to dump it on the left block to Lee. It got fiddled with a little bit and out of bounds right across from the George Mason bench, and it'll be George Mason ball.
Tough break for Fordham there. Executes the full court press perfectly. Taylor Donaldson jumping about 3 feet in the air impressively to corral the ball, but has a 2-on-1 fast break the other way and turns it over, which is something we've seen quite a few times with Fordham this year as they go into the press once again.
Another press for Fordham. Taya Davis going to get called for the foul on the floor. Tough, close defense from the Rams in the press. Cost them a foul there. Sonia Smith will take it out across from her own George Mason bench. Suarez now looking up ahead, finally breaking the press on a pass to Walton. Now Suarez has it top of the key. Now on the right wing, it's Habib. Habib dumping it inside. Daster putting up the contested layup on Lee, blocked. And then another shot put up, rebound under the basket, grabbed by Taylor Donaldson, and Fordham's offense going the other way. Taylor Donaldson on the right wing, back top of the key to Taya Davis. Taya Davis on the right wing to McGurk. McGurk gives it back to Taya Davis. Back to McGurk, playing a game of catch here. To Lee on the right wing. Tried to pass it over Rose Nelson's defender inside. She does, and Nelson with the finish. 6-6 Fordham. Nelson ties it up for him with just under 4 minutes to go in this first quarter.
Perfect post positioning by Rose Nelson there.
George Mason, Walton going on the baseline, taking left baseline, no good on the layup. It's going to go the other way with Fordham. Great interior defense by Lee.
Mina Lee has that benefit of the size she has. She's the tallest person on most of the court she walks on. The defense that we just saw there is exactly what you want to see from Mina Lee, using her frame to her advantage.
Taya Davis snaps it on the right wing to McGurk. Back top of the key to Taya Davis. Davis to Lee, right around the right elbow. She'll take the jumper. No good. Rebound by Mitchell for George Mason. Patriots now going the other way. Mitchell, top of the key, gives it to Suarez. Suarez, dominant performance against VCU last game. She'll pass it, top of the key to Smith. Smith going to calm it down slightly. Now going to go around a Walton screen. Pass back out to Mitchell on the right wing. Her three, no good. Rebound eventually brought in by Taya Davis. Fumbled with it for a second, but gathered it. Now Taya Davis, top of the key. Pass to Rose Nelson, top of the key as well. Now Taylor Donaldson on the right wing. Tried to pass it on the left wing, I believe, to Mandy McGurk. McGurk thought she was going to give a bit of a back-end cut, but just a bit of miscommunication there.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was. You could tell by the facial expressions of every member on the team that was just not the play that was supposed to happen, and turnover for George Mason. Not something we've seen too often during the offensive set. Yeah,
Amy Hayford comes on the court for Taylor Donaldson. She'll take a break. As Smith has it on the right wing. She'll take a three after a pump fake pass, and it's good for Smith. Another three for George Mason. 2:20 to go in this game in the first quarter. 9-6 Patriots. Taya Davis has it on the right wing around a Lee screen. An offensive foul is called on Lee on the screen, and it'll go back the Patriots' way.
Ramina will take a seat on the bench after that play. Fordham shooting themselves in the foot a few times to start this game. As I mentioned before the timeout, a little sloppy on the offensive end and continuing here on the other end of that timeout.
It's going to be Suarez in the backcourt, bringing it up for the Patriots. Drifts over to the left wing, guarded heavily by Hayford, top of the key. Back to Jamison, top of the key. On the right to Habib. Habib, Smith in the right corner, trying to go baseline. Nice dump pass to a driving Walton, and Walton scores at the rim. Taya Davis now has it, top of the key. Tried to get it to Rose Nelson, a little miscommunication, fumbled. Amy Hayford now takes it from the left wing, tries to drive through the right lane, ends up just passing it back out, Flood, top of the key. Now it's Taya Davis, driving through the left lane from the top of the key, spin around jumper, no good from the left elbow. And a call out of bounds. It'll stay with the Rams and stay on this side of the court. Rose Nelson now has it on the right elbow. Amy Hayford takes a dribble handoff from the position, goes to the right lane, no good on the floater, and Kayla Berry has it under the basket. Actually, Kayla Harris has it under the basket, and she'll get a foul. Go to the line for two.
Kayla Harris is having quite a stretch of games recently. In the last 5, she's connected on 13 of 20 field goals, shooting 57%. Also tallied at least 5 rebounds in each of those games, as she averages 6.4 per game over that stretch. So she's looking to continue what's been a dominant 5 games for Kayla Harris.
Good on the first and good on the second for the Seton Hall transfer. Kayla Harris brings Fordham to within 3. It's 11-8 with a minute and a half to go in the first quarter. Fordham's defense swarming in the backcourt here. George Mason tries to get into the front court. Harris steals it on a long pass to Habib. Now Fordham has it offensively. Hayford on the right wing, going around a Rose Nelson screen. Takes it now, top of the arc to Rose Nelson. Dumping it inside to Harris. Harris gets it, goes around a few contesting George Mason players, doesn't make the layup, and it goes out of bounds. It'll stay with the Rams.
Great defense from Fordham. The full court press has wreaked havoc on their opposing teams game after game, and is continuing today. They almost forced a 7-second call in the backcourt, forcing an errant pass up the court, which Kayla Harris successfully intercepted. And Fordham, really the last piece of this puzzle is connecting on the offensive end, which they're going to look to change really quickly. But they're only down by 2, or 3 rather, 8-11 here. So at least they're not having to come back from a large deficit.
McGurk going around a Rose Nelson screen, top of the key, pass to Taylor Donaldson, top of the key. Her three, it's good from behind the arc, top of the arc for Taylor Donaldson, and it's a tie game, 11-11. Now Jamison trying to bring it up for George Mason. Trying to get it past half court. Another steal for the Fordham Rams. It's Taylor Donaldson moving in transition. Rose Nelson now has it on the left block, back out to Hayford. Now Taylor Donaldson has it on the left wing, driving baseline to the opposite corner. Now to Rose Nelson, top of the key. She tried to take a jumper from around the free throw line, gets called for the travel, and back the Patriots' way it goes.
Rose Nelson found herself with contact that she wasn't expecting, takes a step in the face of that contact, and that is going to be called a travel each and every time. But it's good to see the confidence and the aggression from Rose Nelson actually be looking for the basket, because that's something that she struggled with this season.
More trouble for George Mason's offense getting into the front court. Suarez eventually does. 16 seconds to go in the first quarter here. They're going to hold it for one more shot as Suarez drives into the lane right around the right elbow. She'll take a jumper. It's good for Paula Suarez. Now 5 seconds left for the Fordham offense. They'll try and get a quick shot. Amy Hayford driving to the lane. Left-handed layup. It's good for Amy Hayford. See if it counts. I believe it does. The referees are saying it does count. And Fordham will go into the second quarter. 13-13 tie game. Definitely exceeding the expectations of the Fordham Rams in that first quarter.
Absolutely. I don't know if the viewers were able to hear our open, but it's important to note how good this George Mason team has been, and specifically how good they've been under their new head, or not new at this point, third year, Vanessa Blair Lewis. She's taken this program and turned it on its head in a good way. And Fordham being able to hang with them in the first quarter is honestly something maybe not a lot of people would have expected, but 13-13, a great showing from Fordham on the defensive end, and they've been able to make up for it because the offense hasn't exactly been there so far in this game, but the defense has turned into offense and giving them extra chances.
George Mason and Fordham tied at 13. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back in a few moments with A10 women's basketball action. You're listening to Fordham women's basketball on WFUV Sports.
Hi, this is Michael Kay, WFUV class of 1982. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to our Saturday show, One on One. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV Sports.
Back here in Eagle Bank Arena, live in Fairfax, Virginia, home of the George Mason Patriots. Fordham Rams tied 13-13 after the first quarter with the George Mason Patriots. Fordham definitely exceeding expectations, as we talked about right before the break. I would just like to quickly highlight how fantastic this George Mason Patriot band is. Julia Moss is rolling her eyes at me, but this George Mason band is so good, it's worth noting on the broadcast. They've been fantastic all first quarter long, similarly to the Fordham Rams.
I think it's important for the viewers to know context here of why maybe I was rolling my eyes a little bit. We get to the stadium, or the arena, about 2 hours before each tip-off. From the moment we stepped in and a note was played from the band, my partner over here, Chris Carrino, has not ceased to speak about this band. They are good, but every time they play a new song, you would think they just invented something we've never seen before, which I appreciate the appreciation. They are very good, so I will give you that.
I just want to have them in like my house, just like on demand.
I'm sure a lot of people would, to be honest. That's a great little tune to have at your home.
They're dominating similarly to this Fordham press early. This Fordham press has been so dominant defensively. This George Mason team causing a lot of turnovers for them, and a team that doesn't have many turnovers usually.
Exactly. I think another trend that's continuing is the dominance on the boards. Offensive rebounds, Fordham already up to 4 in this game. They had 21 in their last time out, so it's good to see something like that continuing into this game.
McGurk has it top of the key. Pass to Rose Nelson around the right elbow. She'll drive through the middle of the lane. Back out to McGurk, right wing. Back to Taylor Donaldson on the left wing. Her three is good for Taylor Donaldson. She gives the Fordham Rams the lead. It's 16-13 with 9.5 to go in this second quarter.
And if they can get Taylor Donaldson shooting three-pointers consistently, that would be the secret key to
especially
a dominating
open
win.
ones.
Oh, absolutely.
Now George Mason has it offensively. It's Suarez on the right wing going around a Mitchell screen to the top of the key. Now driving all the way around to the left lane. She'll go through the left lane and to the basket with a left-handed finish. Paola Suarez showing off her stuff early. As now Fordham has it going the other way. Amy Hayford going from right wing to left wing. Taylor Donaldson on the left wing, driving inside with a crossover through the left lane. Steal by Suarez. Suarez now has it going the other way. Nice behind the back dribble. Tried to pass it inside to Mitchell. Couldn't quite get it to her. And once again, Fordham's going to have it offensively.
An uncharacteristic turnover from Taylor Donaldson on one and leads to a turnover forced on the other. And this is why it's important, and this is why Fordham wants to build defense as their priority and as their identity in this game, because you can easily shake something off offensively if you have the confidence on the other end to get the ball back, which is exactly what they did there.
On the left wing is McGurk, going to the right wing to Hayford. Hayford going around a flood screen right around the free throw line. Back out to Nelson, top of the key. Nelson to Flood, top of the key. Now giving it back to Nelson on the right block. She'll drive inside in the post. Moving her defender. It's good on the shot. Moving her defender in Walton, and Rose Nelson, good work inside.
Off to a really good start. 2 for 3 from the field so far. She struggles sometimes to get shots up, so it is really good. It is really optimistic for Fordham to see her having the confidence to shoot.
Jamison taking a top of the arc three. It's no good. Corralled in by Taylor Donaldson, and Fordham is going the other way offensively once again. Fordham doing a great job defensively so far. Taylor Donaldson tried to pass it in the post to Nelson, ends up getting it back. Now she'll have it, giving it to the right wing to Flood. Flood going around a Rose Nelson screen, right around the left elbow to Nelson on the right elbow. Nelson spinning, taking a 5-foot jumper, no good on the shot, but gets fouled, and Rose Nelson going to the line for two.
Might be a Rose Nelson masterclass today. Who would have thought that?
I don't want to say it this early, but
it truly is the second quarter with 7 minutes to go. It would definitely be way too early if I were to say that. That's why I was speaking solely in hypotheticals
we'll pump the brakes.
there. Exactly, yeah. I need to not get ahead of myself. But nonetheless, 2 free throws for Rose Nelson. She's never made a free throw this season, so this could be huge for her.
First shot for Rose Nelson, no good off back iron. Still looking for that first free throw of the year. 18-15 Fordham with 7:45 to go in the second quarter. She'll get ready to take her second. No good again from Rose Nelson off back iron. Score will say the same, and George Mason now going the other way. George Mason, a floater from the right block from Smith, no good. Offensive rebound for George Mason. The left wing three, no good for Brown. And another chance from George Mason, but it's taken from Fordham. Couldn't quite see what happened. Coach Brissette Mitchell's in my way, but nonetheless, Fordham on the offensive end. McGurk taking the free throw line jumper, no good. Offensive rebound brought in by Amy Hayford. Another opportunity on the offensive end for Fordham. Mandy McGurk will hold it. We'll try and reset this Fordham offense, standing at the George Mason logo, top of the key. On the right wing to Taylor Donaldson. Donaldson trying to look inside, eventually finds Rose Nelson on the right baseline. Rose Nelson didn't see the shot clock, and a shot clock violation called on the Rams, and George Mason will have it.
Mental error there because the entire Fordham bench was counting her down, but I think she was so locked into her post matchup there that she couldn't hear anything because she wasn't even looking for the basket. She had no idea where the shot clock was and led to a shot clock violation.
It's now Smith waltzing into the front court, guarded by Hayford. Smith dribble handoff. Jamison now has it top of the key. Jamison driving through the right lane, heavily defended by Fordham, and a block by Rose Nelson in the right lane. Not a block?
No, it was a block.
Oh, it was
by Matilda Flood,
By Matilda Flood. The two of them working as Bash brothers inside there. Nowhere for Jamison to go. And now George Mason will be taking it out under the basket. Smith taking it out under the basket. Pass to Jamison in the right corner. She'll move toward the center of the court. Habib now has it top of the key. Tried to dribble inside. Flood with the great defense. And eventually Amy Hayford ends up with the ball. And a foul called in the backcourt on George Mason. And Fordham will have it going the other way offensively.
And Matilda Flood hasn't scored in the last 5 games. She's scoreless so far today. So what's so important about her, though, is that you'll take that 100% when you see the kind of effort she puts in on the defensive end. Gets a block and a rebound there.
Beautiful touch on the lob pass inside from Amy Hayford to Rose Nelson. Couldn't get the shot to go. I believe Fordham will now be taking it out under the basket. Mandy McGurk will be there to take it out. A pass in the right corner, Taylor Donaldson wide open. Her three, it's good for Taylor Donaldson. She's on fire, and she brings out this Fordham lead to 6. It's now 21-15 Fordham with 6 minutes to go in the first half. Smith now has it inside. She takes a little bit of a floater layup. Impressive finish from George Mason. And it's now 21-17, but Taylor Donaldson wasting no time the other way. Drive through the middle of the lane, gets fouled on the way up, and Taylor Donaldson will be going to the line 4-2. This Fordham offense been firing on all cylinders.
It's a good time for a foul there because, oh my goodness, the pace was picking up there for a moment.
I was about to explode.
Right. But, gosh, that is so good from Fordham there to get the ball back on the other end, draw the foul. And Taylor Donaldson, you said it best, she is on fire so far in this game, but she's just... It's not even the points that has made her so good in this game. It's how open she's been able to get. She's losing defenders within screens, and that's exactly what the play is designed to do, and it's working out really well today.
Misses the first free throw off front rim for Taylor Donaldson. Fordham at the free throw line. They're up 4, 21-17 with 5:50 to go. Taylor Donaldson takes her second. No good off side iron. Matilda Flood gets the offensive rebound. Another chance for this Fordham offense. Hayford has it on the left wing. Her three, no good. Another offensive rebound from Flood. Taylor Donaldson now has it on the right wing. Heavily contested three, no good off side iron. And now George Mason going the other way. It's Jamison driving through traffic. Tried to get it on the left corner to Mitchell. It was played around with, but George Mason's going to have it right under their basket.
How about Matilda Flood, Chris? That is incredible.
Fantastic. Suarez now has it under the basket. A pass to Smith on the left wing. She'll take a 10-footer. No good. Rebound brought in by Dayster. And now Suarez will reset the offense on the deep right wing. Suarez going around her defender. Now driving through the right lane. Pass in the left corner to Smith. Smith pump fakes. Dribbles. Now pass inside to Dayster. Dayster trying to move Rose Nelson in the post. Couldn't. Shot no good. And a foul is called. Did you see who that was on?
Was on
called
Taya
on for
Davis.
Taya Davis, a defensive foul for Fordham.
She's confused, and so am I. But that really bails out George Mason there. The shot clock was winding down. They didn't really have any looks for a shot to begin with. The refs are seemingly discussing something right now.
Yeah, conjugating right now. Taya Davis did not like the foul call on her. And they're going to call a media timeout here, so we'll take a little break. It's 21-17 Fordham. Fordham with an early lead over one of the A-10's best, George Mason, on the road here. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back in a few moments with A-10 women's basketball action. You're listening to Fordham Basketball on WFUV Sports.
What's going on, guys? Bridge Gotham here, your New York Giants beat reporter for WFUV Sports. Be on the lookout for weekly reports and game recaps on WFUV's YouTube channel. We'll be covering the action all season long. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at BGBridge for updates throughout the games. For all things Big Blue, stay tuned all season long.
Back here in Virginia, more specifically Fairfax, Virginia, as the Fordham Rams travel to take on George Mason. They're out to an early 4-point lead. We had a media timeout take place just a few moments ago. Referees next to us on the monitor trying to figure out where to put the clock after that stoppage. Seems like they've figured it out at this point, but very impressive start for this Fordham Ram team. They seemingly, on the offensive and defensive end, hitting on all cylinders.
They're forcing George Mason for one of their last 8, which is impressive. They're shooting 8 for 23 overall. George Mason is, at least. Fordham, on the other hand, not shooting better, 8 for 22, but that's what you're going to get when you're Fordham. You're not going to shoot the ball well, but you're going to defend well and make it a close game more often than not, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
kind of looking a little bit ahead, Julia, to the rest of this game. Obviously, there's going to be some sort of resurgence from this George Mason team. We know them too well. We know that they're too good to just roll over at this point in the game. What should Fordham be looking out for and be healthily cautious of going forward in this game?
Rotation. I mean, I can't believe we haven't talked about it yet,
Right.
but George Mason, 3rd in the country in bench scoring, not in the A-10, in the entire nation. So to say they have a deep roster would be putting it incredibly lightly. Every single player on this team can make an impact, 1 through whatever it is, 13, 14. So for Fordham, you can't let your foot off the gas pedal for even a second, because even if they put in the second unit, that second unit is pretty dang good. So you have to be able to play minute 1 through minute 40, and that's what's important for Fordham.
George Mason band doing what they do, and that's make magic,
my
Julia Moss, as both teams come out of the timeout now. Seems like all the shot clock discrepancies have been solved.
Do you know what song they're playing right now?
I do not.
I don't either.
We're similar in that boat. As Suarez takes it out from under her own basket. It'll be Smith in the left corner. Pass in the post. Having some trouble in the post is Dayster, and a steal is made by Taya Davis, and the Fordham Rams going the other way. Pass inside to Matilda Flood in the right corner. Amy Hayford, no good off front rim on her 3. And George Mason now coming back offensively. Jamison back top of the key to Smith. Smith standing on her own logo for the George Mason Patriots. Driving inside through the right lane, tried to get it in the left corner to Mitchell. Mitchell just gathers it, now tries to go baseline on Rose Nelson. To the right corner to Smith, no good on her 3. Now pass back out top of the arc to the left corner. Jamison's 3, no good. Mitchell gets another offensive rebound, trying to pass it inside to Dayster. It's broken up, but I believe a foul is called. Not sure who's going to pick up that foul, but a foul goes on Fordham, and George Mason will stick with it here.
And this is what you expect from two teams who are so ferocious on the boards. Both teams getting a lot of offensive rebounds early here.
Smith with a 10-footer in the left corner, no good. Amy Hayford picks up the defensive rebound. Taya Davis
Hi, this is Michael Kay, WFUV class of 1982. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics.
Coming out a little late from the timeout here, Fordham offense coming on the other end. Taylor Donaldson take a mid-range shot from the left wing right inside the three-point line. It's good. Another bucket for Taylor Donaldson. She has 13 points and brings back this Fordham lead to 5, 25-20 with a minute to go as the missed three on the right wing from George Mason. And another held ball called. It will go back. It'll stay with George Mason here on the offensive end. 25-20 Fordham. Minute left to go in this first half. Fordham definitely excited and happy about their play here in the first half. Definitely exceeding expectations as Manny McGurk will tap the scores table, come back into this game. Fordham with a lineup out there of Hayford, Donaldson, McGurk, Lee, and Flood. As Jamison tries to receive a lob pass at the top of the key, it's tipped. It'll stay with George Mason. They're going to take it out right in front of us here on the scores table. So eventually getting it to Smith in the backcourt, guarded tightly by Mandy McGurk. McGurk kind of gets hit by a screen there. She takes the three from the top of the key. It's good for Smith. Very effective screen there by Dayster. And George Mason right back in this game. 25-23, 47 seconds left to go in this first half. Fordham leading. It's going to be an offensive foul called. Dayster letting out a scream for George Mason. I believe it'll go on Fordham's lead.
Fordham will want this 44 seconds to tick off rather quickly with how momentum is building for George Mason here. Started out 1 for 10 in this quarter, has made the last couple shots to bring this game back within 2, and I think that really is just a telling of how Fordham's offense has been so far, that it only takes a couple shots to get them back in this game.
Suarez leading the George Mason offense. Now Smith around the logo, driving through the right lane, takes the right elbow jumper, no good. And a foul called on the floor. Dayster screaming once again. And
she's pumped.
Yeah, absolutely pumped. And I believe it'll be free throws for Dayster? Yeah, Dayster going to the line for 2. Fordham still leading 25-23. 28 seconds left to go in this first half.
She split her first pair of free throws. We'll hope to make these next 2 as she could tie this game before the half.
Yeah, taking her first free throw here. It's good. Rattling around the rim, bringing this George Mason deficit back to 1. Second free throw for Dayster. No good off every part of the rim. And Matilda Flood now has it for the Rams. 24 seconds and ticking on this first half. Mandy McGurk standing with the ball in her armpit at center court. Matilda Flood on the right wing. Pass to Rose Nelson right at the top of the key. 7 seconds to go. Taylor Donaldson now has it. Taking a shot right from the top of the arc. No good. Mandy McGurk gets the offensive rebound. Taylor Donaldson taking a long-range right wing 3. No good. And that's how it'll end for the first half. 25-24. Fordham leads going into the half. Impressive stuff in that first half from Fordham, and definitely heightening the expectations of this Fordham team.
Absolutely, and this is the part that Fordham's not too accustomed with. It's being able to fight off momentum. Really well-timed half for them. I mean, gosh, I'm sure they wanted that half to come a lot sooner than it did, but luckily they're still up by a point going into the second half, so you can't complain too much, but the way they played down the stretch there is going to need to get cleaned up if they want to win this game against a very, and I can't stress this enough, a very talented top A-10 team.
Fordham leads after the first half here in Fairfax, Virginia over George Mason. We got a chance to catch up before the game with Fordham women's basketball head coach Brissette Mitchell. Take a listen.
Julia Moss here with Lou Orlando from WFUV Sports, and we are joined with head women's basketball coach Brissette Mitchell. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
We're good. We're good. My first question, one of the first things you said about a huge draw to Fordham was the fact it was so close to home. You're from Trenton, New Jersey, so not very far away whatsoever. Now that we're this far into the season, what has that experience been like coming to fruition of, you are actually being able to coach so close to home?
Yeah, it's been great. So I've had a lot of family support. They're always at games. We leave kind of the tickets there for them. They're regulars, and getting to know the people in facilities and things like that. So we're making this place home. And so that's been really enjoyable. And then I also like the fact that so many coaches reach out to me about the talent in New Jersey, in Philadelphia, and say, like, you got to keep this kid home. You got to, recruit this kid and so forth. And some obviously don't work out, but then there are ones that were like, she's talented enough to help us. And so I really love that warm embrace that we're getting from being closer to home.
Coming into this season, you knew it was going to be a challenge, a lot of turnover, bringing in so many different people from so many different places. Now we're over halfway through the season. How have you evaluated just the way they've had to adjust to all that, the way they've had to adapt, especially to your system? Like, how have you seen that progress?
We all know that the odds were against us, and even some of the wins that we have weren't supposed to be our wins, right? And I think that I'm most proud of the team's resiliency. Like, they continue to show up and come into practice and work hard and do the things that's asked of them. So that part I'm really proud of. I'm looking forward to when we make a turn, right? Because we do have talent. I think that, just in terms of system and the timing of things, of getting the players to fill the roster, I think that it's a challenge in terms of how I want to play, right? Like, I want to play up tempo, fast paced, but a lot of times this year we've been having to play slow and in the half court. And there's been games where we have executed, and then there's been games where we haven't, right? And so that comes with a season. But I think that overall, my players as individuals are continuing to demonstrate things about themselves, and that biggest thing that they're noticing is their resiliency.
Absolutely. And at this point of the season that we're recording right now, defense, both individual and team stats, have been off the charts incredible. Was that something day one you wanted to instill, a defensive-minded outlook on basketball this season?
Yeah, definitely. I'm old school with offense sells tickets, the flashiness, but defense wins games, right? And so our ability to lock down opponents and make them uncomfortable and disrupt what they want to do is something that we are doing now and showing great moments, but that's going to be our identity for Fordham women's basketball. Like, those are the types of players that we're recruiting that can actively pick up the ball full length of the court and be disruptive and go for steals and traps and things like that. And so that's something that we're about and take pride in.
Let's talk about that recruiting a little bit, because one of the things you said off the jump was that this is not a one-off year. There's a long-term plan being built, a really long-term vision, and you've already announced a few of the players in your new recruiting class. We talked about Precious a little bit. Like, how excited are you about this next class, this incoming class, and what can maybe fans expect next year?
Yeah, the 24 class is our first true class of being able to recruit, right? And then the 25 class is kind of that class that we're looking for, big talent, and that are going to bring in the things that we're looking for from an offensive stance, right? And so these two next classes are really big for us. And I think that our 24 class is unique because they lay the foundation. You're going to see they're extremely hardworking. Like, their day off, they want to be in the gym. They're reaching out to coaches and wanting to get better. And Precious is the first one here on campus to exemplify that, right? And so the bar is set with the amount of work that it's going to take, and they're going to follow suit, right? Like, we need leaders that are going to show the way. And so that's why it's really exciting about that 24 class. And they're talented, right, from an athletic standpoint, and they bring what I want to do defensively, right? So in basketball, obviously, there's two sides of the ball. The side of the ball that we take our most pride in is our defensive ability, and then we're looking for players that are skilled, right? I'm not a systems coach, right? There's some teams in the A-10 that have success because they're system-based, and then there's other teams that have success because they're athleticism, and they have players making plays. And so that's more along the lines that we're recruiting for and targeting those prospects, right? Can you create your own shot? Are you a three-level scorer, right? And various things like that. What skills do we need to hone as your coach to really get you to shine? For example, Taylor, right? We had Taylor this year. I put Taylor in situations where she can really thrive and score. We need players that want to shoot those shots and want to hunt those shots. And so that's something that from a system of how we're going to coach and how they're going to play, you can definitely expect from us.
You touched on it a little bit in that very first question, but recruiting wise, coming from Northeastern, now recruiting in the New York, New Jersey area, how is that? Has there been any differences in, the way you go about that, or the talent that you're seeing coming from Boston and at Northeastern and then now in New York?
Yeah, no, not really. We do regional recruiting, so we're trying to tap into this whole East Coast. And so from a stance of the staff, they each have a region that they're responsible for knowing and having a pulse on those prospects. But I'm going to go where the talent is, right? I'm going to, New York is an awesome city with everything that you could possibly need at your fingertips. We have a beautiful campus that's enclosed, right? So you don't have to worry about any safety issues of being in New York. Your parents know that you're safe. You can choose to stay within the grass, or you can go out into the city, and that's up to you. And so to have the best of those both worlds, we're really attracting prospects that enjoy that. And then on top of it, we're elite academically, right? So we're reaching out to players that want to excel both on and off of the court, and that's something that we're going to continue to do in this area.
Fordham women's basketball has had a really strong relationship with the fans. This field trip night was a big hit. And talking to Miranda and Amy about it, they really talked about how important it was for them, even though they don't feel like women's basketball fandom's in the best spot right now, to help cultivate and to really help progress it long term. Like, how important is that relationship with the Fordham fans for you, not just for Fordham, but for fandom in women's sports in general?
Yeah, I think that you got to start home first, right? Like, we have this big idea. We want to have the LSU fans or the Iowa fans and so forth, right? We want to have that, but we have to do the work for that. And part of our pillars, that connection piece that we take seriously of the Commit, Care, and Connect, is that once a month we go out and to do community service, community outreach, community engagement, and really interact with them so they have a connection to our program. That's how you're going to get people to come. And we take pride in that. So we do that, like I said, once a month. All of our players are out there being active, myself, my staff, and that's something that we have a unique opportunity to do within these 5 boroughs, right? We start with the Bronx and we're looking to expand. We're doing, oh my goodness, we had the field trip game, as you mentioned, which was so fun. We're doing, for Black History Month, Black-owned businesses in the New York area to come and publicize, their business. And so we're really, really excited about connecting with the community to get them to value and appreciate not only women's basketball, but the work that these women put in daily, right? So this is their chance. When I say they're my players, opportunity to show off, right? You practice really hard, and now let's get some people in here so they can see you perform.
And I think that's one of my favorite parts of broadcasting the home games is the themes that, because every time you go into that gym, it's going to be something different. So I was wondering, what has been your favorite theme so far, and maybe one you're looking forward to for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I was, oh my goodness, I can't even think of words to describe how excited I was about the kids game. That field trip game, they were so pumped. They brought the energy. And oftentimes when you have little kids come to a game, they don't really know who they're cheering for. They kind of are swayed by winning, right? But those kids, man, they knew they were in Fordham's house and they were doing defense chants. But that's the atmosphere, right? You're in Rose Hill, which is a quaint arena and a lot of rich tradition there. But the acoustics, the sound, when you have a packed house, it's nothing like it.
Well, sometimes at the kids' games, they'll leave at halftime. They stayed the whole time.
The whole game. It was awesome.
You're a coach that had a very strong playing career. I think that's something that when you talk about sports, people value, is a coach that can put themselves in their players' shoes. When you look at your coaching style, how much of it is influenced by your experience and, man, I really wanted this from a coach when I was playing, or this coach did this for me and I loved it or I didn't? How much of those player experience influenced the way you interact with the players and the way you coach just in general?
Yeah, I definitely say 75-25, right? I'm a coach that, I come from a winning culture, winning tradition. I know what it takes to win as a player and as a coach, right? And so I know those things, but I'm also coaching a different athlete, right? A unique athlete that has NIL, that has transfer portal, that has all these opportunities at their fingertips that if they are unhappy, they can leave, right? And so knowing the climate and the environment that we're coaching in, I have to be aware of that. That's why I say 75-25, because I do adapt to the style of play, right? And so that's something too that connects with scouting. Every opponent requires something different. Every player requires a different style of coaching. And so I care for and treat them all equally, but I coach them differently.
I want to switch the vibe just a little bit to some maybe some more fun questions, off the court questions. Fordham University, like the mascot is absolutely the Ram. There's no doubt about that. But I want to talk about maybe a secondary mascot, maybe specific to this Fordham women's basketball team, and that's your dog, Nala. I just wanted to give you the floor to talk a little bit more about your dog, and you bring it to practices, you bring it to your office sometimes. How has that been so far this season? Because she's just a puppy.
Yeah, she is a pup. Got her in September, and I think that it's big in terms of mental health, right? And having that support, like whether it's I bring her in most of the time on our off days or when we have an early practice, and the girls come in and they like see her and they play with her, right? And so that smile that she's able to bring to their face is really fun. I think that I thought that I would never be a dog owner. And then I get here and we're talking about dogs and pets and everybody's like, yeah, like you should. And I'm like, I don't know, time and all this stuff. She is the easiest thing ever. So when people say that dogs are like kids, they're lying, okay? They are not. She's easygoing, no cries, no fits.
Or maybe you just got really lucky.
I got lucky. I got a good dog. But yeah, no, it's been a joy to have her, to bring in moments and lighten up the room, and lighten up the space that we're in, because again, she's so joyful.
One of my favorite things from the summer was the best Ram thing, you going around and checking out different places in the city, trying different foods. Without insulting any of the other businesses that you visited, did you have a favorite from that?
Oh, man, without insulting, I can't. They all were really good. Okay. I'll say that, they were different. Okay. But I have a special place in my heart.
Welcome back to the Eagle Bank Arena here in Fairfax, Virginia, the home of the George Mason Patriots. Fordham up early after that first half, 25-24. Very impressive and definitely a little bit higher than the expectation walking in is what I'm trying to say. But specifically on the defensive end for this Fordham team is really what's keeping them in this game.
The George Mason Patriots lead the A-10 with 75.1 points per game, which is a lot of points.
A lot of points.
And if you're looking at the scoreboard right now, you see 24, and that's not a lot of points.
It's on pace for 48 if my math's correctly.
Yeah, your math is absolutely correct there. Good job, Chris.
I appreciate it.
But I think that's a huge testament to how good this Fordham defense is, and I've said this so many times, this defense is too good for the offense to not be on the same page. 25-24, that is such a low-scoring first half, especially in the Atlantic 10, where there's a lot of defensive powerhouses that lead to good offensive performances. But for Fordham, it's just been slow rolling for them outside of Amy Hayford and Taylor Donaldson, and really only Taylor Donaldson, who has 13 points. There's not another player on the team who has more than 4. Rose Nelson, second in line and scoring with 4 points. So you can't say enough about how they perform defensively.
Yeah.
But on the offensive end, there's so much left to be desired.
And Taylor Donaldson's talents on the offensive end really just adds a whole new dimension to this Fordham offense. This Fordham offense kind of stagnant, can kind of get caught in their own ways sometimes, but Taylor Donaldson keeps this Fordham offense in games, and she seems to always hit the big shots when it matters.
And you got to think of where this team would be without her. It's a scary thought, to be honest. I mean, you're looking at 25 points. Taylor Donaldson has just about half of them.
Or yeah.
We're
a little more than half of them.
A little more than half of them, if our math serves us correctly.
Shout out Miss Wilson, 8th grade.
Oh goodness. But as they get ready to come back out to the court, you gotta think that the message at halftime was shoot the ball and shoot it well. The rest of this team outside of Taylor Donaldson needs to have the green light, and I'm sure they do, but it's the confidence aspect that has to trail with it in order for them to get up good shots, because there's been a lot of Fordham players left open today, but they just haven't been looking for the basket. They've just been looking to pass it off to Amy Hayford or Taylor Donaldson. But I think the other story is that Amy Hayford only has 2 points, and they've still been able to stick in this game, have a lead in this game, which of course is not what you want from Ford. Like, you don't want to see Amy Hayford get just 2, but it is a good sign if she has to get a low offensive production number that Fordham is still able to stick in there with the A-10's best.
George Mason in an unfamiliar spot at halftime, down 25-24 to the Fordham Rams. Fordham in their clean black alternates here on the road, joined by their coaches wearing black quarter zips. Everyone matching, looking nice. And on the other end, it's the white of George Mason. Their home whites, a home white they haven't lost in all season long. George Mason 8-0 in 8 games here at the Eagle Bank Arena. Fordham looking to play spoiler and maybe give George Mason their first home loss of the season.
And get their first
road
victory
win of the season. A lot of implications here in this second half as the Fordham offense gets it going. Pass out to Rose Nelson on the left wing. Rose Nelson called for a travel, and it will go back the other way toward George Mason.
Talk about wanting to get off to a strong offensive start. Can't say that is exactly what we're getting right now.
Slow start for both teams. Smith has it around the free throw line in the left corner, back downstairs to the right to Habib. Habib driving from the right wing, inside on the right block, no good on the layup. The continued attempt after the offensive rebound, no good as well. Great interior defense by Lee. And now Fordham's offense setting up in the front court. Lee has it top of the key. Little lob pass inside to Rose Nelson. Nelson puts it up under the basket. No good. A fight for the rebound downstairs. Eventually George Mason gets it. Mandy McGurk really wanted to travel there. Didn't get one. As now George Mason has it on the offensive end. It's Suarez. Going around a Deister screen. A foul called on the ball on the floor. And George Mason will be taking it out. It's a foul, another foul on Lee.
Another petty foul, too. Just defending the drive on the three-point line. Wasn't even really in a scoring threat position. Still draws contact and gets the foul called.
Mitchell now has it, giving it to Smith. Smith around the right wing, drives inside, kicks it to the right corner. That three from Habib is good. George Mason with the three. And now George Mason jumping back out on top, 27-25 with 8:30 to go in this third quarter. Amy Hayford, dribble handoff to McGurk, top of the key. McGurk gives it to Taylor Donaldson on the left wing. Her three from behind the arc, no good. Matilda Flood tries to track it down out of bounds. She does, off the leg of Deister. Another hustle play from Matilda Flood.
And we've seen her do that game in and game out when she knows her back's against the wall or the out-of-bound line, if you will. She's always able to stay in bounds, get the ball off the George Mason defender, and keep possession for Fordham.
And now it's going to be Fordham taking it out under the basket. It's going to be Mandy McGurk taking it. Eventually getting it to Matilda Flood in the post. Back out to the top of the arc to Amy Hayford. Hayford taking direction from her head coach, Coach Mitchell. Now around to Rose Nelson screen, top of the arc. Now on the left wing, swarmed by a double team. And a little scrum on the ground is a held ball. It will go the other way, the possession arrow in favor of the George Mason Patriots.
Fordham being on the other end of the turnover battle here to start this out. An uncharacteristic turnover, putting the ball on the ground for Amy Hayford.
It's now Habib once again in the right corner. Another three, it's good for Habib. George Mason goes out to a 5-point lead. It's now 30-25 George Mason.
Almost exactly the same shot as the first one and almost similarly left wide open as she cans that three.
Matilda Flood now. Amy Hayford taking a 12-footer on the left wing, no good. Hitting backboard and rim. As now George Mason moves into the front court. Mitchell now has it on the left elbow. Mitchell has it top of the arc. Pass on the logo to Suarez. Suarez standing on her own Patriot logo. Guarded heavily by McGurk. On the left wing to Habib. Back to Smith. Smith taking the left wing three, and it's good for Smith. On the three. Timeout called by Coach Brissette Mitchell, and George Mason coming out firing in this second half. They have a 33-25 lead.
And this is everything you are scared about happening if you're the Fordham Rems women's basketball team here. Oh my goodness, George Mason can't miss coming out of the half. They're the highest scoring points per game leader in the A-10 for a reason, and that's because they can shoot from pretty much anywhere on the court. They're skilled in all three facets of the offensive game, and they're showing it right now.
Fordham struggling a little bit after that spectacular first half. They're down 33-25. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back in a few moments with A-10 women's basketball action. You're listening to Fordham women's basketball on WFUV Sports.
Hi, this is Mike Breen, WFUV class of 1983. WFUV is the flagship station of Fordham athletics with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to Saturday one-on-one. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV Sports.
Back here in Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia, the home of the George Mason Patriots. George Mason, after a bit of a slow start in the first half, comes out firing, and after being down at the half, they now hold a 8-point lead, 33-25 over the Fordham Rams with just 7 minutes to go in this third quarter.
From the end of the last half into this present moment, they are on a 13-0 run. Fordham, conversely, scoreless in the past 4 minutes of action, which, you know, unfortunately, it does suck to say, but is becoming a theme of this season. It's good defense, but for only so long. If you can't score, you can only hold off the A-10's best for so long, and George Mason proving that point exactly right now. If you're Fordham, you need to draw up something. You got to get Taylor Donaldson open, of course, but I think the key to getting back into this game, which is crazy to say because we were just talking about how Fordham was up by 8 points in the first half, but you need to get Amy Hayford involved, because if she gets stuck at 2 points, there's little to no chance, because if we're talking about tertiary scorers who can really bring up the end for Taylor Donaldson and Amy Hayford, that list is kind of short, if there's any player at all, to be completely honest. So you need to get Amy Hayford involved, or you need her to get involved quickly. But it's good to see Miranda Nyborg on the court right now. She hasn't gotten many minutes today or games in the past, so hope to see her make a difference here.
Fordham down 33-25, still waiting for their first points of the second half here with just over 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Nyborg now has it right around the free throw line. Amy Hayford takes a dribble screen now through the left wing. Tried to get it toward the rim, didn't. Now Taylor Donaldson gathers it on the left wing around a Nyborg screen. Crossover, takes the 10-foot mid-ranger, no good from Taylor Donaldson, but she'll go to the line for two after a foul. And that foul will be given to Deister of George Mason.
Really important free throws coming up for Taylor Donaldson here. Trying to stop the bleeding just a little bit, get some points in the second half, and try and make at least some kind of dent in this lead. Taylor
Donaldson going to the line for two, preparing for her first, takes it. It's good, nothing but net for Taylor Donaldson on her first. Brings this Fordham deficit down to 33-26. Second free throw, no good off back iron. Offensive rebound brought in eventually by Taylor Donaldson. And now Taya Davis will have it top of the key for Fordham. Pass on the left wing. Taylor Donaldson sizing up her defender, driving through the middle. Pass on the left wing to Matilda Flood. Now swinging it to Amy Hayford in the right corner. Trying to get inside, can't. Now working against the shot clock. 1 second left and couldn't get a shot up. Another shot clock violation for the Rams.
Unbelievable, and it's even less acceptable because you're on the end of the Fordham bench and they're all counting you down. I don't know how Amy Hayford doesn't hear the shot clock being counted down, but you also need to just have a general awareness. It doesn't matter if you can hear it or not. You need to be looking at the shot clock. That's the second time it's happened today.
And Kayla Berry swiftly comes in for Amy Hayford. Amy Hayford takes a seat. George Mason offense moving around the perimeter. Smith moving toward the top of the key, dropping her defender and taking the three. It's good for Smith highlight play for George Mason, and they extend their lead now. It's now 35-26, 9-point lead as Taylor Donaldson misses a three from the right wing, and now George Mason moving in transition. It's Mitchell trying to go up with a contested layup on Taylor Donaldson. Taylor Donaldson swats it away out of bounds. It'll stay with George Mason.
Just one of those demoralizing kind of plays, right? When a player on your team gets crossed up like that, hits the deck, and then a three in their face. Fordham lucky to not give up another score there as the inbound is incoming.
I believe they called that last George Mason shot a 2, not a 3, actually. As Smith working, passing it to Habib in the right wing. Now the opposite wing to Mitchell. Mitchell passing down into the post. Dayster working on Nyborg, taking the swift layup with the right hand, moving right and scoring. George Mason now with an 11-point lead, the largest lead for George Mason of the game so far, 37-26, with just over 5 minutes to go in this third quarter. Taylor Donaldson passing at top of the key. Taya Davis has it into Nyborg in the left corner to Matilda Flood. Flood passing it to Berry right around the free throw line. Her jumper is good from the free throw line. Good to get points on the board from the field for this Fordham team. It's now 37-28. Smith has it for George Mason offensively. Moving back around to the top of the arc behind the key. She moves through the right lane, throws up a circus layup with the right hand, no good, and now Fordham's moving in transition. To the left wing to Donaldson. Donaldson moving on baseline, trying to spin around her defender, eventually makes it all the way to the right corner and takes a three. No good off back iron from the right corner. And that ball is going to go the other way out of bounds in favor of the George Mason Patriots.
You can see Taylor Donaldson patting her chest saying, "That's on me," because she held the ball there for way too long. You don't go end to end, baseline to baseline, and then chuck up a three on the other end with the hand in your face. You've got to pass it off, not even just to give your teammates a shot, but to maybe set yourself up for a better look than that, because there were certainly better options there than that three-point shot.
Yeah, timeout is taken for this Fordham Ram team. They are behind this George Mason team 37-28. We'll take a little break. You're listening to women's A10 basketball and listening to Fordham women's basketball on WFUV Sports.
Hi, this is Mike Breen, WFUV class of 1983. WFUV is the flagship station of Fordham Athletics with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to Saturday one-on-one. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV Sports.
George Mason leading the Fordham Rams 37-28 with 4.5 to go in this third quarter, live here in Fairfax, Virginia. Fordham, very promising first half, going into the locker room with a lead, but this George Mason team in this third quarter showing what they're all about.
Absolutely, and Fordham not doing themselves all too many favors. They kind of lost that passion, that fight that we saw in the first half. And specifically, they've gotten away from the press, which, you know, that decision kind of confuses me, because you're down, you're trying to build your own.
I didn't even think of that, 100%.
Trying to build momentum there, so you know, you hope that they kind of go back to that press, one, so they can try and force turnovers, but two, that kind of energy sparks offense. You saw that in the first half. That's kind of what they built their offense around, is off of turnovers in transition. And they just went right back to the zone in this, and George Mason so far absolutely eating up the zone defense. And you know, George Mason struggled with the press in the beginning, so don't be surprised if they go back to it, but it's just a matter of if it's sooner rather than later, because you don't want it to balloon out even more of a lead and you're just trying to make the score look a little bit better. Right now they're only down by 9, so you have the chance to eat into that with, building your own momentum through turnovers.
Yeah, fantastic point from you. They've strayed away from the press, and they're bringing it back now. Seems like Coach Mitchell might have heard you from the broadcast booth, as George Mason does get it into the front court safely. Suarez now has it top of the key. Screen coming up from Walton. She eventually uses it, moving left toward the left wing. Pass out to Habib. Habib back out, top of the key to Suarez. Suarez trying to dribble on Rose Nelson. Eventually does. Kick out to Walton, 10 feet on the left baseline. No good on the jumper. And Fordham now coming back, going right to left. Rams into the front court. Pass to Flood on the left wing. Flood dribble handoff to Taya Davis. Taya Davis, top of the key. Taylor Donaldson, her three. No good from the top of the arc. And a defensive rebound corralled in by Suarez as Rose Nelson makes a heck of an effort trying to get the offensive rebound. Doesn't get to it. And a foul called. It'll stay with George Mason.
Tries her best to get to the rebound. The loose ball, rather, collides with Suarez. Foul goes on her.
It's now Suarez once again bringing it up for this George Mason team, as she has most of the night tonight. Smith has it on the left wing, driving inside right around the left block. Pivots, kicks back out top of the key to Walton. Walton dribble handoff to Jamison right at the top of the arc. Another pass on the right wing to Suarez. Suarez around the screen, now driving through the left lane. Tries to put up a contested layup, but held ball is called in the middle of the lane, and that'll go the other way in the favor of the Rams.
Good stuff from Rose Nelson, shaking off that foul on the other end to stay aggressive, reach in on the drive up to the basket and force the held ball. Fordham gets possession, as you said. So this is a key opportunity to take advantage of this extra possession George Mason has gifted you.
Taya Davis, top of the key, giving it to Flood on the right wing. Dribble handoff back to Davis. Davis dancing on the right wing, top of the key to Hayford. Hayford now decided not to slash to the rim, passing it back out to Flood. Now Davis, right wing, looking for someone to pass to. Does get it to Nelson in the post. Nelson, fantastic bounce pass inside to Matilda Flood, and she'll finish it with the layup. Fordham creeping back into this game. It's now 37-30 George Mason with just under 3 minutes to go here in this third quarter. It's now Suarez on her own logo. Pass to Smith. Smith on the left wing. Now driving through the middle of the lane. Kick out to Jamison on the right wing. Jamison behind the back dribble, driving inside through the left lane. Foul is called on the layup attempt, driving in. And once again, the George Mason Patriots will be going to the line.
Taylor Donaldson did all she could there under the basket. Yeah. Quite a few acrobatic moves we saw under the bucket there. Nonetheless, Taylor Donaldson gets the reach-in foul on the shot, so 2 free throws coming up.
It's going to be 2 free throws for Taylor Jamison, the senior from Wichita, Kansas. The first one is good. Last year, Jamison second on the team in points per game. Also shot 37% from the field. Best of career. As the second one is good for Jamison. This George Mason lead back out to 9, 39-30. Just under 2.5 to go in this third quarter. As an inerrant pass goes out of bounds, it'll stay with the Rams on this side, going right to left, and Fordham will have it under the basket.
And you can see Fordham is putting an emphasis on finding players in the paint, finding post players in the paint, but George Mason doing an excellent job of defending that area in particular.
Flood giving it to Taya Davis. Taya Davis driving through the right lane. Nice over-the-hand pass inside to Rose Nelson, but a foul is called inside offensively on Rose Nelson. Rose Nelson screaming for a flop there, doesn't get it, and George Mason will once again have it on the offensive end. It's going to be Smith taking it out under her own basket in the backcourt for George Mason. Another press from Fordham, including Taya Davis and Amy Hayford, as Suarez is going to try and break that press. It's eventually broken by Jamison with an outlet pass to Smith. Smith going from the right wing inside, posting up Matilda Flood, back out top of the key to Suarez. Suarez sizing up her defender. Going around a Walton screen now. Pass inside to Walton. Can't hold on to it. Fordham now has it breaking the other way in transition. Taya Davis in the left corner to Amy Hayford, couldn't hold on to it, and it flies out of bounds in favor of George Mason.
It's going to be Amy Hayford's first turnover, but 14 on the day for Fordham. They like to keep that under 16.
14? My goodness.
Yes, they try to keep it under 16, but it seems like they're well on their way to surpassing that before the third quarter even ends.
Yeah, that's definitely a turnover number they would not like to have right now, as the left wing three was taken and no good, but cleaned up on the offensive glass by Habib of the George Mason Patriots. This George Mason lead back out to 11. It's now 41-30 with a minute and a half to go in the third quarter. Taylor Donaldson now has it on the left wing for Fordham. Dribble handoff, top of the key to Amy Hayford. Pass to Taya Davis on the left wing, crossover, kick out to Flood, left corner, back to Taylor Donaldson, top of the key. She drives through the right lane, puts up a floater, no good, and is pushed in the back on the offensive glass. That one's going to go on number 2, Zahira Walton, and it'll stay under the basket. Possession stays with Fordham.
Kind of hard to believe that wasn't called on the shot there. A little confused.
No, it was when Taylor Donaldson put her hands up to get the offensive rebound. She was pushed in the back. So I believe that's what the foul was called. Lob pass sent into Rose Nelson on the left elbow. She drives inside through the left lane. Back out in the right corner, Taylor Donaldson. Her three, it's good for Taylor Donaldson. A much-needed three for this Fordham team, as just under a minute to go in the third quarter. It's 41-33 Fordham. George Mason. George Mason, 41-33 lead. 45 seconds and counting on this third quarter. They move the ball patiently on the offense. Smith around the right elbow. Goes back out to the three-point line and takes it in. It's good from the right wing. Right wing three is good for Sonia Smith. Nifty little play there. And now Fordham's coming on the offensive end. Taya Davis driving through the right lane. No good on the heavily contested layup. And now George Mason moving in transition. In the right wing to Smith. Another one, same spot, no good. Off front rim. And Rose Nelson will gather it for the Fordham Rams, as the Fordham Rams will creep into the front court. Fordham Rams, top of the key, Rose Nelson setting a screen, top of the key. She now gets it around the free throw line. It's stolen by Habib. Habib in transition, tried to get there before the buzzer. She couldn't. Not there just in time. And George Mason, after a bit of a disappointing first half, down one going into the locker room, now up 43-33 after the third quarter. Very productive third quarter for this George Mason team.
100% in that third quarter alone. George Mason shot 7 for 14, 50% from the field, 3 for 4 from beyond the arc, and Fordham falling into those patterns that we've seen throughout the season. The three is just not falling. They're 1 for 5, 3 for 11 in that third quarter, 13 for 40 overall, and that number kind of jumps off the page at you, and the inefficiency in the shooting, but that is not a number that we're not known to. We've seen that time and time again this season, and it becomes worrying how much of a trend it is coming into the fourth quarter. I mean, it's a 10-point game. It could be worse. They are holding George Mason to 43 points still, which, you know, if we're talking moral victories, that is certainly one, but Fordham doesn't want moral victories anymore. They want actual wins. So they're going to have to come out firing, and that's going to be taking threes. That's going to be incorporating Amy Hayford. She's having a really tough shooting night, 1 for 9 from the field, with Taylor Donaldson 6 for 14. There's got to be at least, at minimum, a secondary player who can get you points in this fourth quarter.
And the Fordham defense, we talked about it a little bit after halftime, played with this a bit of aggression and attitude that you could feel all the way from over here on the scores table. What do they have to do to kind of get that back here in the fourth quarter?
Find their spark again. Play with, like, they looked like they were having fun in that first half, and you're not really getting the sense of that here in the second. It's almost like you're just trying to hold off George Mason as long as you can to not let this lead balloon out. They need to take control, whether that means, you know, lying to yourself in a sense of, you know, we're in this game right now. This is a bucket that can change it. You need to have that mentality on each and every offensive possession, especially right now, because if they don't, if they keep playing with this lackadaisical kind of offense and defense, to be quite honest, with the turnovers that we're seeing, it's uncharacteristic of Fordham to have this many turnovers at this point in the game, but something's going to have to change, and it's going to have to change both quickly and drastically at the start of this fourth quarter.
I'm Chris Carrino, joined, of course, by the one and only Julia Moss. We're here in Fairfax, Virginia at Eagle Bank Arena, the home of the George Mason Patriots. Fordham falling behind 43-33. Very promising first half for the Rams. Couldn't really keep it together in the third quarter, and have, as my friends across the pond would say, they've lost the plot here just a little bit.
I completely agree. If we're looking at positive things to keep in mind for Fordham, though, they're up to 6 blocks, which is up there as far as season highs. A lot of good stuff there. Mina Lee, 3 blocks, only 2 points, but only shot twice in this game. That's the biggest theme for Fordham. They need to just get more shots up. George Mason out shooting them, having 7 more field goal attempts. You can't have that, especially when they're shooting as well as they are.
George Mason, one of the A-10's best, leading in almost every statistical category. Fordham would gain a massive upper hand in momentum with a win here tonight. See if they can come back as this fourth quarter is underway. Smith, lob pass, tried to send it into Daister. Eventually a foul is called. I believe that one's going to go, or no, the other way actually. An offensive foul called on Daister inside of George Mason, and now Fordham's going to have it moving right to left offensively. Taya Davis, Matilda Flood getting it to Rose Nelson. Right around top of the key to the right wing to Taylor Donaldson, around a Rose Nelson screen, driving through the middle of the lane, and a pretty left-handed finish for Taylor Donaldson. Fordham bringing the lead back to 8. It's now 43-35 with 9:20 to go here in this game in Fairfax, Virginia. It's now Suarez, top of the key, getting it to Habib on the left wing to Smith. Smith moving from left wing to right wing, going through the right lane, puts up a acrobatic right-handed layup, no good, and Fordham's now moving with pace the other way. Taylor Donaldson back out to Taya Davis, top of the key. Back to Matilda Flood. Matilda Flood has it, top of the arc, to the right wing to Amy Hayford. Hayford going around to Rose Nelson screen, now another pass, Taylor Donaldson on the left wing, back to Taylor Donaldson, top of the key, working on her defender, right wing, Taya Davis going through the left lane, tried to put up a floater, no good, and another great play made on the offensive glass by Matilda Flood, knocking it off of Suarez, and it'll be Fordham ball again, all due to Matilda Flood.
Nearly identical there as far as decision-making from Matilda Flood, able to, in midair, knock it off the George Mason player.
In just 1 second here for the Fordham offense to get it in on the inbound. Taylor Donaldson throws up a heave from the post, no good, and now George Mason moving back the other way offensively. Smith had it on the left wing, pump fake, drived inside, tried to put up a floater. Rose Nelson blocks it once again. The blocks continuing to be a trend for this Fordham team. George Mason will take it out under the basket.
That'll be Rose Nelson's 3rd block of the game today, proving that her defensive presence has been something to note.
Daister now has it in the post on the left block, spinning on Rose Nelson to the right corner. Habib, her 3 is good from the right corner. A 3rd right corner 3 for Habib. And this George Mason lead back out to 11, 46-35 with 8 minutes left to go in the game. It's Amy Hayford on the right wing. Passing to Taylor Donaldson, top of the key, around to Rose Nelson 3. She'll take it from the top of the arc. No good on the 3 from TD. And now George Mason moving offensively in transition. Backdoor pass to Mitchell and the finish. Fantastic play from the duo of Smith and Mitchell there. And that brings George Mason to their biggest lead of the night, 48-35. Taylor Donaldson has it on the right wing. Moving now, top of the key to Amy Hayford on the left wing. Rose Nelson has it on the free throw line. Back out to Taya Davis on the right wing behind the arc. She's open for a 3, decides not to take it. Multiple swings to Taylor Donaldson in the left corner. Guarded heavily, now drives baseline. Pass on the right wing to Amy Hayford. She'll take a 3 from there. No good off front and back rim. And now George Mason tried to get the defensive rebound quick and move in transition, but a foul is called on Fordham. And George Mason will be taking it out here in the backcourt right in front of us. Fordham making some substitutions as well. Amy Hayford hitting the bench. Now Davis, Flood, McGurk, Lee, and Donaldson round out the starting 5 for the Rams. As now Habib has it, top of the key, giving it to Mitchell on the left wing. Back out to Suarez, top of the key, around the top of the arc. Back out Smith, right wing. She's going to settle just slightly, not in any sort of rush. Now going around Lee and McGurk, pass top of the key to Mitchell. She's wide open, hitting an even more wide open Suarez in the left corner. No good on the three, and a foul is called on the ground, and it's going to go on Fordham. Taya Davis not happy with that one, getting hit in the face. Saw that right at the tail end of the play, but it's going to stay to the right of us on the George Mason side, and George Mason will have another chance.
Matilda flooded immediately, doing their best to make sure that wasn't upgraded to a technical foul, because Taya Davis certainly had some choice words there for the referee.
Suarez taking it out from under the basket. Smith gets it in the right corner. Working on Lee. Now Mitchell on the right wing has it. Moving in on Flood around the left block now. Back out to Smith, right wing. Smith on the much larger Lee. Around a Walton screen around the free throw line. Pass inside to Walton. No good, off the knees of Walton. And now Fordham moving with speed in transition. It's Taya Davis. Taya Davis driving inside. Moving from left to right. Puts up the shot. No good. But Fordham gets another chance on the offensive glass. And Taya Davis will bring it out to the top of the arc. McGurk now has it. Same spot. Top of the arc. Right on the center of the logo. 8 seconds left on the shot clock for Fordham. Taya Davis has it on the left wing. Taya Davis taking the top of the arc three. It's good for Taya Davis. Big three for Fordham, and that brings this Fordham deficit down to 10.
Fordham gets lucky there. That was the product of two busted plays there. Taya Davis gets the three at the end.
It's going to be Walton under the basket, pulls it back out. Now Smith has it top of the key. Looking around for a pass, eventually finds Suarez deep in the front court. She's going to dribble slowly on Taya Davis deep on the right wing. Now around a Walton screen, picked up by McGurk, going through the left lane, near the basket, no good on the left-handed layup, and Fordham gets it back once again. 5:20 to go in this game, 48-38, George Mason leading. Mandy McGurk now has it for the Fordham offense. And Fordham will take a timeout here. Coach Mitchell didn't love what she saw, wanted to take a little break. But Fordham seeming to stick around just a little bit right now.
And before I get into that, I just want to say I also didn't love what I was seeing on the court there. Yeah. Mandy McGurk had the ball in her hand. Taya Davis goes up to try and deliver a message to her. Two point guards talking to each other. Mandy McGurk very clearly confused.
I was just about to say, looking very confused.
Taya Davis, the message was not received from Mandy McGurk. And
not well.
Coach Bridgette Mitchell, seeing that conversation happen, had no part of that. Called the timeout immediately. Good timeout there, but Fordham inching their way back into this with the question mark, because every time Fordham builds any kind of momentum, George Mason replies with ferocity on the other end, getting wide open threes, layups, sometimes some ticky-tacky fouls in their favor to keep possession in certain scenarios. But credit to George Mason, because Fordham is not completely putting themselves out of this one, but George Mason being able to keep them at an arm's length.
This Fordham team still kind of sticking around with the offensive prowess of Rose Nelson and Taylor Donaldson. There's just something they need, just a little bit more on the offensive end. Another component, is that Amy Hayford? Is that Mandy McGurk? Who could you see maybe being the vessel for a bit of an offensive resurgence here for the Rams?
I mean, you've watched as much Fordham women's basketball as I have. We haven't exactly seen a Mandy McGurk masterclass in a game so far this season. So if it's not Amy Hayford, it's hard to really imagine who that would be. And it's not like she's not trying. She's 1 for 10. It's just sometimes you just have bad shooting nights. That's a part of being an athlete. That's just a part of the game of basketball. But what's important is for her to not stop shooting, because they're down by 10. Taylor Donaldson is shooting efficiently. She's having herself a good game, but it can't just be Taylor Donaldson. And I do want to say, the band right now, to bring it back to this, I have to say I'm slowly but surely creeping into the opinion of you that you have, because they're playing Paramore right now, and it sounds pretty good.
I was just gonna say, first of all, I don't know if you know this about me, massive Paramore fan. And also, you know it's good when Miranda Nyborg's in the huddle and she's trying her hardest to hold in a smile, because you could just tell she's absolutely loving this George Mason band.
I lost my train of thought on my last point because I was taken aback by what was going on in my headset by this band. I might be conformed. I'm not typically a fan of a band, but man, this George Mason singer is kind of killing it.
Specifically the guitar player in the third to last row.
Oh my goodness.
Just absolutely putting on a show here in Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia. George Mason leads 48-38 here at home. They've been undefeated all season long. Seeing if they can add another one to the list. Fordham still looking for that first road win of the season. It's slowly slipping away with just over 5 minutes to go here and a 10-point deficit. Fordham does have it offensively. Manny McGurk has in the left corner, back in the post to Lee. Lee tried to work on a defender. Suarez intercepts the pass. McGurk intercepts it right back on the other end. Takes a very contested layup on Suarez, and Suarez had it with the block. And a foul is called on Taya Davis as Suarez tried to get back out on the offensive end.
That's going to be Taya Davis's 4th personal foul as Amy Hayford enters the game. Taya Davis takes a seat. You get a steal, which is, of course, what you want, but then the shot choice by Manny McGurk on the other end, there were definitely better options if you swung it back out rather than taking that shot on someone who had the height advantage on you by at least 3 or 4 inches.
Walton now has the top of the key, giving it to Jamison. In the high post is Mitchell, right around the right elbow. Dribble handoff to Walton. Walton now moving around the right wing through the left lane, right around the left elbow. Doesn't have anywhere to go. Back out to Suarez on the left wing. Suarez backing down Hayford to the rim. Tried to make a pass on the baseline, was unsuccessful, and the ball will go the other way, right to left, in the favor of the Fordham Rams. McGurk now bringing it up, guarded 94 feet by Suarez. Giving it to Donaldson on the right wing. Donaldson, top of the key to Flood. Flood moves it to McGurk. McGurk moves it to Taylor Donaldson. Donaldson working on that right wing, receiving a double team, eventually getting it to Hayford, top of the key, hitting McGurk in the left corner. McGurk back to Amy Hayford, left corner. Back to McGurk on the left wing. She'll take a 3, no good. Matilda Flood, another offensive rebound and another shot clock violation for this Fordham offense. Just not what you want to see from this Fordham offense at all.
And George Mason read that to perfection. They knew the first look was Taylor Donaldson. They doubled her. Knew the second look was Amy Hayford. Gets 2 people on her as soon as they're able to switch from Taylor Donaldson to Amy Hayford. Leaves Manny McGurk pretty open with single coverage and shows why. Didn't make the best shot there.
Taya Davis not fearful of getting her last foul. Almost gets a steal. Doesn't quite get it. And George Mason will regroup. Suarez, top of the key, dribbling slowly, now to the right wing. Smith driving baseline side, the 5-foot jumper, no good for Smith, and Fordham now has it. Fordham heads into the front court. Matilda Flood with a pass to Taya Davis, top of the key. Davis pass in the left corner, Taylor Donaldson. Back out to Davis. Davis working on Suarez, taking it on the free throw line, back out to Hayford. Hayford now drives to the left wing, puts up a right-handed layup, and good for Amy Hayford. Amy Hayford bringing this Fordham deficit back down to 8. It's 48-40 with 3 minutes left to go in this matchup. Jamison trying to get a dribble handoff to Suarez, couldn't get it to her, still holds on to it. Now moving toward the right wing. Pass back out, top of the key to Walton. Tried to get it on the left wing to Suarez, broken up by Amy Hayford. She's moving in transition and scores with a right-handed layup. Fordham coming back within 6. One of the closest leads since around the third quarter. It's now 48-42. George Mason with 2 minutes left. Walton now has the top of the key, pass to Smith. Smith has it on the right wing, deep on the right wing. Looking for somewhere to pass it, can't really find anybody. Finally finds Jamison top of the key. Tried to get a dribble handoff, couldn't get it to her. Jamison now driving through the right wing, right around the right block. A foul is called after Matilda Flood and Lee trying to contest the layup, and Jamison will go back to the line.
After that play, Matilda Flood and Taya Davis having a bit of an animated conversation there. We see who this foul is going to be called against. It's not going to be Taya Davis, so she's going to be able to stay on the court. They're going to get that on Amina Lee, which is really unfortunate for Fordham because they let the shot clock get very close.
Her third foul, I believe, Lee.
Yes.
As Jamison gets ready to take her first. Good on the first free throw from the charity stripe. 49-42, George Mason, 7-point lead, just over 2 minutes to go. Fordham definitely still in this game. As Jamison gets ready for her second free throw and makes it. Nothing but net on both free throws. Brings this George Mason lead back out to 8. As Taya Davis now has it for the Fordham offense, top of the key. Right around the top of the arc on the logo, guarded heavily by Jamison. Now to Taylor Donaldson on the left elbow, driving inside around the left block. Her floater, no good. And it'll go out of bounds in favor of the Fordham Rams. It was a fadeaway from Taylor Donaldson, my mistake. The miss led to the out-of-bounds call, and Amy Hayford will be taking it right under the basket. Hayford, lob pass into Flood right around the left elbow. Dribble handoff to Amy Hayford right around the top of the arc. Tried to get it in the left corner to Taya Davis, stolen by Jamison, and she's in transition. Pumps the brakes on it, and this George Mason offense will reset. Smith now has it in the deep right post. Ball in hand, no dribble. Now dribbling, pass top of the key. Daister back to Smith, now has it on the left wing. Tried to cross over to the baseline, couldn't get there, now doubled. Trying to pass it to Mitchell, intercepted by Taylor Donaldson, and now she's in transition. Pull-up free throw line jumper is good for Taylor Donaldson, and that brings this deficit back to 6. It's now 50-44 George Mason with just over a minute to go in this game. Now Jamison to Mitchell in the right corner, right in front of the three-point line. Mitchell finding Suarez, ball tipped out of bounds by Hayford. It'll stay with George Mason.
Fordham really needs to move with purpose at this point. Score or not score from George Mason, if that's how this play ends. We've still seen Fordham try and set up entire plays and get low into the shot clock. They're going to need to change that if they want to get back into this game.
12 seconds on the shot clock for the George Mason offense. Jamison has it deep on the left wing, and a kick ball is going to be called, I believe, on Taya Davis, and it's going to stick with the George Mason offense. Just 20 seconds left on the shot clock. 30-second timeout called by George Mason and Coach Blair Lewis. We talked before this game about the value of Blair Lewis, Coach Blair Lewis, coming to this George Mason program. She's really revitalized it, and the program looks almost night and day to what it was before her arrival.
I mean, just 3 years ago, George Mason was, by and large, considered just one of the worst teams in the A-10, and it was honestly a historical fact. Like, this team was just not good until you get this head coach in. For first year, it wasn't too pretty. Second year, a little bit better. They finished one game above 500, and then you look at this year, and they're the best team in the A-10 record-wise. They only have one loss. They're 7-1. She has this team looking exactly how she wants, as they're in the driver's seat to go 8-1 on the season and continue their unbeaten home record.
It'll be Suarez taking it out in the front court for George Mason. She'll get the ball back after an inbound to Smith, and another pass to Smith. Top of the arc to the right wing. Daister in the right corner to Mitchell, back top of the key to Smith. Smith back in the right corner to Mitchell. She's wide open for three and takes it. No good. Off back iron. A scrum for the defensive rebound. Eventually brought in on the offensive end by George Mason, and Mitchell will get fouled after her offensive rebound.
You just can't give up an offensive rebound in that situation. You get the shot that you want. You want a non-three-point shooter shooting a three with the shot clock expiring. You get that look. She misses it. Also exactly what you want. But then you give up the offensive rebound. They've been so good on the boards, and not only in this game, but all season long. It's just defeating to see it lessen up there.
Niku Mitchell good on the first free throw, bringing this George Mason lead back out to 7. 51-44 with just 29 seconds left in this game. Time running out on the Rams. As the second one is also good from Mitchell. She's 78% on the line from the year and continues it there as a right corner quick three from Taylor Donaldson is good. Took me and my partner Julia Moss off guard, and now a strong press being given by the Fordham Rams in the backcourt. Eventually a foul is called as Jamison was entering her front court. Taylor Donaldson will be called for the foul, and George Mason will go to the line once again.
20 seconds left. George Mason makes both of these free throws. It's hard to see a world in which Fordham is able to come back at this point, but Taylor Donaldson, credit to her for keeping this a game for just a little bit longer.
Jamison taking her first free throw. It's good. Bringing this George Mason lead back out, 53-47. 20.4 left on the clock for the game here in the fourth quarter. Jamison will get ready to take her second.
She's a 82% free throw shooter, so one of the best on the team.
Nothing but net, both chances. It's now 54-47, George Mason, 17 seconds left. Taylor Donaldson in the right corner, in the opposite corner to Flood. She'll take a three. No good on the three from Flood. George Mason will get the rebound, and it seems like George Mason will dribble out the rest of the clock. George Mason, a bit of a bumpy one, but end up with the victory in the end as the Fordham Rams fall 54-47 in favor of the George Mason Patriots.
Overall, a positive performance from Fordham, especially if you're looking at that first half. It was certainly a close matchup. Went at half up, but it's just been the scoring that's caused them an issue time and time again. And once again, you see that be the issue here. I mean, they hold them to 54 points, which for as much as George Mason scores, that is certainly a victory in itself.
I believe we're going to be joined here post-game by Coach Andre Jerko. Gonna see if we can settle that out first, as the cheerleaders for George Mason scattered all around the court and the George Mason band going absolutely crazy. Don't know if we're gonna get an interview here. I have no problem enjoying this George Mason band just a little bit more.
Well, he has most certainly headed to the locker room, so does not appear we're going to get a post-game interview from him.